The rain fell like a confession that night, slow at first, then unrelenting, drumming against the cracked sidewalks of downtown Portland. Every droplet shimmered beneath the yellow glow of streetlights, each one catching in the curls of her soaked hair. Claire Weston had always liked the rain. It quieted the noise in her head, the anxious hum of unfinished things, the ache of a life that felt too small for her heart. She'd moved to Portland 6 months ago, hoping the Pacific Northwest would help her start over. It hadn't. Her umbrella had flipped inside out 3 blocks ago, and she'd given up fighting it. She let the rain soak her blouse, her jeans, her skin. Somewhere between exhaustion and surrender, she felt alive. She crossed Alder Street, clutching a paper bag with a half-eaten sandwich and a bottle of red wine she didn't really plan to open. The night air smelled of wet asphalt and coffee. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw him. A man standing alone beneath the awning of a closed bookstore. He wasn't like the others who hurried past, heads down, faces hidden. He was still, watching the rain like it meant something. His dark hair clung to his forehead. His jacket glistened under the dim light, and his hands were shoved deep in his pockets. There was something about the way he stood, tired, maybe lost. Claire hesitated. Then their eyes met. For a second she forgot how to breathe. He looked about 30, maybe a little older. Clean-shaven, though his jaw was shadowed with fatigue. His eyes were pale gray, storm gray, and they didn't flinch when they found hers. He gave her a small, quiet smile. The kind that didn't ask for anything. "Some storm," he said. His voice low, warm, and somehow calm amid the chaos of water and wind. "Portland's trying to drown me," she said, half laughing. He chuckled softly, glancing up at the sky. "Maybe it's cleansing us." Cleansing us. The words lingered, oddly intimate. A truck rumbled past, splashing water onto the curb. She stepped closer to the awning, close enough to smell rain and something faintly metallic. Blood? No, probably the city air. "Thanks for sharing the shelter," she said. He looked at her again. "You looked like you needed it more than I did." She smiled, shivering slightly. "I'm Claire." He hesitated a beat too long before replying. "Evan." The name fit him, quiet, unassuming but with weight. They stood there for a while, the rain softening around them. Conversation came easy, as if they'd met years ago, not 5 minutes before. She told him she'd moved from Denver after breaking off an engagement. He told her he'd just gotten into town from Seattle, on personal business, he said, vague but not evasive. Something about him made her feel unguarded. Maybe it was the way he listened, really listened, his gaze steady but never intrusive. When thunder rolled across the sky, she flinched. He reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing her arm. It was a small touch, but it sent a jolt through her like static in the dark. "I'm sorry," he murmured, starting to pull back. She didn't let him. Her hand caught his. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The sound of rain filled the silence between them, steady and wild. Then she did something she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the loneliness, or the way his eyes held hers like an anchor in the storm. She kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't gentle either. It was sudden, desperate, and electric. The kind of kiss that feels like it's saving you from something. He didn't resist. His hand moved to her back, the other cradling her jaw, rainwater dripping from his fingers onto her skin. His lips were cold, his breath warm. For a few seconds they forgot the city, the storm, everything. Then he pulled away, breathing hard. "I shouldn't," he whispered. "Why not?" His jaw clenched. He looked away, his expression unreadable. "Because not everything that feels right is." Before she could respond, a distant siren wailed down the street. Police lights flickered blue and red through the sheets of rain, reflecting off puddles like fractured glass. Evan stepped back, his body tensing. "I should go," he said. "Wait," Claire said, confused. "You don't even have an umbrella." He gave her a faint, almost broken smile. "Some storms you have to walk through." Then he turned and disappeared into the rain. Claire stood there, heart hammering, watching the shadow of him vanish into the mist. By the time she got home, her small apartment overlooking the Willamette River, the rain had turned to drizzle. She hung her coat, toed off her soaked shoes, and stood by the window, staring at the city lights trembling on the water. She touched her lips. She could still taste him. She couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at her, like he knew something about her she didn't yet understand. She poured a glass of the wine she hadn't planned to drink and sat on the couch, trying to distract herself with the evening news flickering on the muted TV. The anchor's voice cut through her daze. Portland police are still searching for a suspect believed to be armed and dangerous following an incident outside a downtown hotel late this evening. Authorities are urging residents to stay indoors and report any sightings immediately. Claire barely looked up until the image changed. A man's photograph appeared on the screen. Dark hair, gray eyes. The rain still on her lips seemed to freeze. She dropped the wine glass. It shattered against the hardwood floor, splattering red across her bare feet. Because the man on the screen, the one the police called Evan Grant, person of interest in a homicide investigation, was the same man she'd just kissed under the storm. And in the brief, flickering frame before the news cut to commercial, she could have sworn he was looking straight at her. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. It drummed against Claire's apartment windows like a reminder, steady and merciless. Every sound outside, the hum of passing cars, the low whine of sirens somewhere in the city, made her flinch. She'd barely slept since that night. Every time she closed her eyes she saw him, Evan, standing in the rain with that quiet sadness in his eyes. Then she'd see the same eyes on the TV screen, under the words person of interest. Homicide investigation. Her phone buzzed constantly with news alerts. Police expand search for suspect, hotel security footage released. Witness claims man fled north toward Old Town. Each notification made her heart race. She tried telling herself it wasn't possible. Maybe it was someone who just looked like him. Maybe it was a mistake. But deep down she knew. The voice, the eyes, the way he tensed when the sirens came, she knew. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about that kiss. The way he'd touched her, like he hadn't wanted to let go but knew he had to. The way he'd said, some storms you have to walk through. Now, every part of her wanted to understand what storm he was walking through. By the 4th day, the rain eased into a soft drizzle. The city smelled of wet pine and cold metal. Claire stood in front of her bathroom mirror, hair tied back, face pale and tired. She'd called in sick twice. Her boss had stopped asking questions. She thought about deleting the news apps on her phone, pretending it had all been a strange, vivid dream. But curiosity, no, something more dangerous, kept her from moving on. That evening, as the gray sky dimmed into indigo, she opened her laptop and searched his name. Evan Grant, 32. Former Marine. Current whereabouts unknown. There were more articles than she expected. A shooting at the Meridian Hotel downtown. 1 fatality. Charles Latham, local business executive, found dead in a suite on the 12th floor. Witnesses claimed to have seen a man fleeing the scene, matching Evan's description. She scrolled through comments, rumors, theories. Some said it was a robbery gone wrong. Others said Latham was into shady deals and Evan was hired to send a message. But nothing added up. Then she found a photo. A blurry frame from a hotel security camera. Evan stepping into an elevator, his jaw tight, his eyes shadowed. He looked scared, not violent. Claire's throat tightened. She closed her laptop, pushing it away like it had burned her fingers. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. 2 days later, she was at her favorite coffee shop on NW 23rd, Maple and Steam, trying to lose herself in the normal rhythm of people, voices, and the smell of espresso. The place was crowded with students and remote workers, heads bowed over laptops. She sat in the corner by the window, pretending to read, her mind miles away. That's when she saw him cross the street. At first, she thought it was another hallucination born from guilt and insomnia. But when he turned his head, she knew. Evan. He was alive and he was watching her. Their eyes met for one impossible second before he disappeared into the alley beside the bookstore. Claire's pulse spiked. She left her coffee half full and rushed outside, scanning the wet street. "Evan!" she called out, though her voice was swallowed by the city's noise. She darted toward the alley, her boots splashing through puddles. He was there, standing in the narrow space between brick walls. His jacket hood pulled low, rain dripping off his shoulders. "Claire," he said softly, his voice trembling slightly. You're on the news," she whispered, catching her breath. "They said someone was killed." "I know." He glanced toward the street, eyes darting nervously. "I shouldn't have come here. But I needed to see you." "Why me?" He hesitated, searching her face. "Because you looked at me like I wasn't what they say I am." Rainwater ran down his face, and he looked broken. Not dangerous, just haunted. "What happened, Evan?" she asked, her voice barely audible. He looked away, exhaling. "It's not what it looks like. I didn't kill him." "Then why run?" "Because someone wanted me to look guilty." His voice cracked, and she saw something in his eyes. Fear mixed with a strange calm, like a man standing on the edge of something he couldn't avoid. Before she could ask more, he stepped closer. "Please, Claire. Don't tell anyone you saw me." "Not yet." She shook her head. "Evan, this is insane." "The police." "The police are part of it," he interrupted. "You can't trust them." "I can't explain everything right now, but if you believe me, if you really believe me, meet me tomorrow night." "Where?" "The docks. Pier 5. Midnight." "Evan." But he was already gone, slipping down the alley like smoke. That night, Claire lay awake listening to the rain return. Her mind raced in circles. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But what if he was lying? What if she was being pulled into something dangerous, something she didn't understand? Yet, beneath the fear, there was something else, something that scared her even more than the thought of danger. Oh. The next night came fast. The city was quiet, wrapped in mist that smelled of river water and rust. The Willamette shimmered under the faint glow of dock lights as Claire walked toward Pier 5. Her breath visible in the cold. Every sound, the distant clank of chains, the groan of shifting wood, made her nerves tighten. She told herself she wouldn't actually go through with it. She'd just see if he was there, maybe call the police if it felt wrong. But deep down, she knew she was going to see him. At 12:03 a.m., she spotted him near the edge of the pier, hood down, waiting. He looked exhausted, his face paler than she remembered, eyes sunken but still sharp. "You came," he said softly. "I shouldn't have." "I know." They stood in silence for a moment, the river lapping softly against the wooden posts. "Tell me the truth," she said finally. "What happened that night?" Evan swallowed hard. Latham wasn't who he pretended to be. He was laundering money through veterans' charities, mine included. I found out, tried to confront him. He pulled a gun. He paused, voice shaking. I wrestled it from him. It went off. Claire's heart pounded. "So it was an accident?" "Yes. But when I called for help, the first cop who showed up told me to disappear." "Why would he?" Evan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Because Latham wasn't just dirty. He was protected. Someone powerful is cleaning up the mess, and I'm the loose end." Claire's throat went dry. "You need to go to the FBI, Evan." "I tried," he said bitterly. "They sent me back to the same precinct." "You don't get it. This goes deeper than you think." She stared at him, trembling. "Then why come back here? Why find me?" His eyes softened. "Because I didn't want you to think I was a monster. Because for one moment in the rain, you made me feel like I was still human." Her breath caught. The night around them seemed to hold its own heartbeat. Then, from the distance, a flash of light, headlights cutting through the fog. Evan's body tensed. "Run," he whispered. "What?" "They found me." Suddenly, the pier filled with shouting voices, men in black jackets, armed, moving fast. Claire froze as Evan grabbed her hand. "Go!" he hissed, pulling her toward the river's edge. Gunfire erupted. The sound tore through the mist. Claire screamed as Evan pushed her behind a cargo crate, shielding her with his body. Then there was silence, just the river and the echo of her heartbeat. When she looked up, Evan was gone. All that remained was a single drop of blood on the wooden planks, and the distant whine of sirens closing in. The city didn't sleep that night. Floodlights cut through the fog over the Willamette, washing the docks in sterile white. Police tape fluttered in the cold wind like strips of warning, cordoning off the place where the world had come apart. Claire stood outside the barrier, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, shivering, not from the cold but from everything else. They'd found her by the riverbank minutes after the gunfire stopped. An officer had led her to an ambulance, asked her questions she barely heard. "What were you doing here, ma'am? Did you see who fired? Did you know the suspect?" She'd said no, again and again, but the words tasted like guilt. Now, hours later, as dawn bled gray across the sky, she sat in the back of the ambulance staring at the dark water. Somewhere beneath the surface, she imagined Evan's reflection still there. His eyes, his voice, his impossible calm before chaos. The police hadn't found a body. They said he must have jumped. She didn't believe that. 3 days passed. Rain returned, steady and cold. Claire's life unraveled quietly, thread by thread. She couldn't go to work, she couldn't sleep. Reporters camped outside her building, shouting questions she never answered. The story had gone national now. Fugitive Marine suspect vanishes after shootout at Portland docks. Each time she saw his name scroll across the screen, something inside her clenched. She told herself to let it go, to move on. But then came the letter. It was slipped under her door sometime in the night. No envelope, just a folded piece of damp paper, faintly smelling of rain and oil. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Claire, if you're reading this, I'm still alive. But not for long if they find me. I need you to go somewhere for me. Don't tell anyone. There's a storage unit. Pinecrest Storage, Unit 213. You'll find a box inside with a brass lock. Take it and don't open it until you're somewhere safe. Trust no one, especially anyone wearing a badge. E." She read it twice, her heart thudding so hard it hurt. He was alive, and he trusted her. That night, Claire drove to Pinecrest Storage, an industrial maze on the edge of the city, half swallowed by fog. The air smelled of wet concrete and pine. Her headlights cut through rows of metal doors until she found 213. The padlock was old but unlocked. Someone had already been here. Inside, there was nothing except a wooden box on the floor. Dark oak, weathered, about the size of a shoebox. On top of it, a folded photograph. He picked it up. It was Evan, smiling. His arm around another man. Charles Latham. The victim. Her stomach dropped. On the back of the photo, scribbled in pen, "Seattle, 2019. The box felt heavier in her hands now. She hesitated, then undid the brass clasp. Inside were files, papers, flash drives, photographs, names, account numbers, government seals. The top page was stamped with a word she didn't understand. Cashin Project. Her pulse quickened. There were emails between Latham and a senator's office. Mentions of classified transfers, off-book operations, and one name that appeared again and again. Major Evan Grant. Her breath caught. He wasn't just a bystander. He'd been part of something. A photo slipped from the pile. Evan in uniform, younger, standing in front of a helicopter in the desert, an American flag behind him. There was something hollow in his eyes even then, as if he'd already seen too much. Claire sank to the floor of the storage unit, rain dripping from the ceiling. Who was he really? And why had he chosen her? The next day, she went to the one person she thought she could still trust, Detective Mara Keene, her neighbor from the next apartment over. They'd had coffee together once or twice, talked about work and bad dates. Mara was sharp, calm, and wore the kind of steady expression that made you believe her. When Claire showed up at her door, Soaked and trembling, Mara didn't hesitate. "What happened?" she asked, ushering her inside. Claire hesitated. She knew Evan's warning. Trust no one wearing a badge. But she couldn't keep this alone. "There's something I need to show you," Claire said, pulling the box from her bag. Mara frowned, glancing at the contents. "Where did you get this?" "It was left for me." "By him?" Mara's jaw tightened. "You mean Evan Grant?" Claire nodded slowly. "He says he didn't kill Latham. That it was all a setup. That these files prove something." The detective's eyes flicked over the papers. Then she looked up too fast. "Did anyone else see this?" "No." Mara forced a small, tight smile. "Good. You did the right thing bringing it to me." For the first time in days, Claire felt a sliver of relief. "So what happens now?" "I'll take this to evidence. But you should go home, Claire. Try to stay off the radar. Let me handle it from here." Claire nodded, exhausted. She left the box and went home, curling up on the couch, finally able to breathe. Maybe this would all end now. But that night the unease returned. Something about Mara's tone, her eyes. Too steady, too calm. Claire couldn't shake it. She opened her laptop and searched again. Detective Mara Keene, Portland PD. Her heart stuttered. Mara wasn't listed as active duty. She'd been suspended 6 months ago for misconduct in internal affairs. Claire's stomach twisted. She grabbed her phone to call 911, then froze. A soft click echoed from her front door. Someone was inside. She moved quietly toward the kitchen, heart hammering. The apartment was dark except for the streetlight glow filtering through the blinds. She could hear footsteps, slow, deliberate. Then a whisper. "Claire." Her breath caught. "Don't scream," Evan said, stepping into the light. He looked different, thinner, bruised, wearing a torn jacket. But his eyes were the same. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You're alive." He nodded. "Barely." She stepped closer, tears welling. "You can't just, Evan, they said you were." "I know what they said." He looked past her, scanning the apartment. "Did anyone follow you to the storage unit?" She hesitated. I don't think so. I went to Mara Keene. I gave her the box." His expression hardened instantly. "You what?" "She's a detective. She said she could." "She's not a detective anymore," Evan cut in, voice low and sharp. "She worked for Latham. She's part of the same people who set me up." Claire's blood ran cold. "She has everything," Evan continued, pacing. "The files, the evidence, the names. If she hands that off, they'll bury it, and me with it." He stopped, looking at her, eyes blazing with something between desperation and pain. "You were the only one I could trust, Claire. And now," she stepped closer, "we can fix this. We'll get it back. Together." Evan's gaze softened just slightly. "You don't understand what that means." "I don't care," she said. "I'm not letting you vanish again." The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous. Then, from outside, headlights swept across the window. Evan grabbed her hand. "They found me." Before she could react, glass shattered behind them. A gunshot echoed through the apartment. Claire screamed. Evan pulled her to the floor as bullets tore through the wall, sparks flying from the metal frame of the window. Then, darkness. When she opened her eyes, the air smelled of smoke and plaster. The room was empty. Evan was gone. But on the floor beside her, scrawled in dust and blood, were 2 words. "Trust no one." And beside them, Mara's badge. Portland was a ghost under the storm that night. The wind ripped through the city's veins. Empty streets, flickering streetlights, rain streaking the glass of shuttered shops. Somewhere between the river and the hills, Claire Weston ran barefoot through puddles, clutching Mara Keene's police badge like it was a curse she couldn't drop. She didn't remember leaving the apartment. The sound of gunfire still rang in her skull, her lungs burning from the smoke. Her phone was gone, her keys gone, everything except the small silver badge slick with blood. By the time she reached Burnside Bridge, her body felt hollow. She leaned over the rail, rain pelting her hair, heart breaking open into the night. He was alive. Evan. He'd come back for her, saved her again. And now he was gone again. She didn't know if he'd escaped or been taken. Below, the Willamette shimmered black and restless, swallowing the city's reflection. Somewhere out there, she thought, was the truth he'd died or killed for. Morning came pale and gray. Claire found herself in a motel on the edge of town, the kind where the carpets smell like cigarettes and the walls hum with broken plumbing. She'd paid cash. The clerk hadn't asked for ID. She sat on the bed, wrapping herself in one of the stiff blankets, watching rain trace slow lines down the window. Her reflection stared back, blood on her sleeve, exhaustion hollowing her eyes. The TV in the corner played low, the news crawling across the screen. Breaking. Ex-detective Mara Keene found dead in warehouse fire. Claire froze. The photo on the screen was unmistakable. Mara, confident, sharp-eyed. The anchor continued. Authorities believe the fire was set deliberately to destroy evidence. No suspects have been named at this time. The investigation is ongoing. Her stomach turned. The files. The storage box. All of it gone. She whispered to herself. Evan. If Mara was dead, then someone else was cleaning up the pieces. And she was next. That afternoon, a knock came at her door. 3 soft taps. Claire's entire body went cold. She moved silently, gripping the edge of the bedside lamp like a weapon. Claire! Her knees almost gave out. The voice was hoarse, tired, but familiar. She opened the door. Evan stood there, drenched and pale, one hand pressed to his side. Blood seeped through his jacket. Oh my God! She pulled him inside, locking the door behind them. You're hurt. He collapsed onto the bed, breathing hard. It's not bad. Just need a second. You've been shot, she said, tears burning her throat. Grazed, he muttered. They caught me near the freight yard. She tore open the motel's first aid kit, her hands shaking. As she pressed a towel against his side, he flinched, then gave a low, bitter laugh. You should have left Portland when you could. Not without you. He looked at her, really looked, and the hardness in his face broke. You don't even know what I've done. Then tell me, she whispered. He sat back, exhaling slow. I joined the Cashin Project in 2018. It was supposed to help veterans transition back from combat, funded by Latham's company, backed by DC money. But it wasn't about helping anyone. What was it? A cover, he said quietly. They used our names, our service records, to move weapons through shell charities. Latham handled the money. I handled the transport. When I found out, I tried to pull the plug. They made it look like I was the one selling arms. Her pulse quickened. So they framed you. Latham was supposed to meet me that night at the hotel. He had evidence that could clear me, but when I got there, he was already dead. Someone had beaten me to it. Who? Evan's eyes darkened. I thought it was Keene, but now I'm not sure anymore. The silence that followed was heavy, like the air before a lightning strike. Finally he looked up. There's one copy left. Of the files. Latham kept a backup somewhere. If we find it, I can prove everything. We, she said softly. He hesitated, then nodded. You've already risked too much to walk away. They left the motel before dawn, driving east through the Columbia Gorge. Mist clung to the cliffs, water streaming down mossy stone. The radio stayed silent except for the crackle of distant thunder. Evan's breath grew shallow from the pain, but he stayed focused, scanning the road ahead. Latham had a cabin near Hood River. He used it for offshore transfers. If the files are anywhere, they're there. Claire gripped the steering wheel tighter. And if someone's already found them, then we're dead, he said plainly. She didn't answer. The honesty in his voice scared her more than any lie could. The cabin sat hidden among cedar trees, overlooking the foggy river below. The air smelled of rain and wood smoke. It looked abandoned, until Claire noticed the faint glow in the window. "Someone's here," she whispered. Evan motioned for her to stay in the car, but she followed anyway, her shoes silent on the wet earth. They crept around the side of the house. Inside, the light flickered, a lantern sitting on the table beside a laptop. And there, in the dim glow, was a man. Middle-aged, expensive coat. He turned slowly, as if he'd been expecting them. "Major Grant," he said. His voice was smooth, practiced. "You've been difficult to find." Evan froze. "Senator Hargrove." Claire's stomach dropped. She recognized the name from the files. One of the signatories on the Cashin project. Hargrove smiled, hands raised like a preacher. "I assume you've come for what's left of Latham's little archive. You should have stayed dead, son. It would have been cleaner." Evan's jaw clenched. "You killed him." The senator tilted his head. He started talking to reporters. "I did what was necessary." Claire stepped forward. "You ruined his life. You turned him into a criminal." Hargrove's eyes flicked toward her. "And who might you be?" "Nobody," Evan said quickly, moving between them. The senator sighed. "You really are predictable, Grant. Always trying to save someone. But the truth doesn't save people. It buries them." He pulled a gun from his coat. Claire's breath caught. Evan moved before she could react, slamming into Hargrove. The gun went off, shattering the lantern. Darkness exploded, glass flying. Claire ducked as the room filled with smoke and the smell of burning oil. She heard a struggle, a grunt, the thud of bodies hitting wood. Then another shot. "Silence. Evan," she called. No answer. The smoke cleared enough for her to see. The senator lay on the floor, still. The gun beside him. Evan was on his knees, blood on his hands. Not his own this time. He looked up at her, eyes hollow. "It's over." But Claire wasn't so sure. "Where are the files?" she asked. Evan stood, wincing. He reached for the laptop on the table, flipping it open. The screen flickered to life. One folder labeled Cashin, its timestamp only hours old. Someone else had already accessed it. Claire stepped closer, dread coiling in her stomach. Who else knew about this place? Evan's expression changed, realization dawning too late. A beam of light sliced through the window. Red and blue. The sound of engines outside. Dozens of them. "They found us," Claire whispered. Evan's gaze met hers. "Then you need to choose." "What?" He grabbed her hand, pressing a flash drive into it. "The files. Everything you need. If you stay with me, you'll die. If you run, you can expose them." "No." He pulled her close, his forehead against hers, rain and smoke between their breaths. "You were the only good thing left in my world, Claire. Don't waste it on me." "Evan, please." He smiled, tired and gentle. "Run." The door burst open behind them. Claire turned, but Evan pushed her through the back exit, slamming it shut. She stumbled into the woods, heart hammering, the flash drive clenched in her fist. Gunfire erupted again. Voices shouting. Then silence. The forest swallowed the sound. She didn't look back. By morning, the cabin was nothing but ash. News outlets reported the same thing. Fugitive major killed in firefight. Corrupt senator found dead in blaze. But Claire knew what they didn't. Because in her coat pocket, the flash drive still burned warm against her heart. And deep down she felt it. Evan wasn't gone. Not yet. Some storms, she thought, never really end. 2 weeks after the fire, Portland felt like a city between dreams. The rain had stopped at last, but the air still carried the smell of ash, an invisible memory of what had burned and what had survived. Claire Weston hadn't slept more than 3 hours a night since Hood River. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flames swallowing the cabin, heard the echo of gunfire, felt the rough pressure of Evan's hand pushing her away. "Run," he'd said. And she had. Now she was hiding in plain sight. A different motel every 2 nights, a prepaid phone, the flash drive always on her body, tucked inside the lining of her jacket. On every TV she passed, she saw pieces of the story. Senator dead in suspected corruption scandal. Fugitive ex-Marine presumed killed in explosion. Presumed. That word kept her alive. On a cold morning near the end of October, she sat at a corner table in a diner off I-84. Her fingers wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold. Outside, the gorge was a watercolor of mist and amber light. She opened her laptop and slid in the flash drive. A folder bloomed on the screen. Encrypted, dense. Password field blinked, waiting. She tried the obvious ones first. Latham, Cashin, 2018. Nothing. Then she remembered something Evan had said that night under the awning, their first night, the rain soft around them. His words echoing like prophecy. Maybe it's cleansing us. He typed, cleansing us. The folder opened. Inside were documents. Hundreds of them. Financial records, military memos, shell companies, signatures from senators, generals, CEOs. The entire architecture of a machine built to launder money and weaponize loyalty. And in the middle of it all, one file labeled Aftermath. It wasn't written by Evan. It was addressed to him. Major Grant, if you're reading this, you already know what Cashin became. But before you burn the world down to expose it, remember what they're capable of. The only way to kill the truth is to let it go. Ill. Claire's pulse stopped for half a beat. Ill. Charles Latham. He'd known he was going to die. She sat there, shaking, her reflection trembling on the dark screen. Every instinct told her to send it all. To every journalist, every FBI contact, every senator on the list. But Evan's warning still echoed in her mind. The truth doesn't save people. Buries them. If she pressed send, the story would destroy powerful men. But it would destroy Evan too. His name, his honor, whatever pieces of him still lived in rumor. And she didn't know if she could bear that. That night, she drove west toward the coast. The rain returned, light and forgiving. The highway unfurled like a ribbon through fog and forest, and she let the sound of wipers fill the silence. Near Astoria, she stopped at a gas station for coffee. The clerk, a teenage boy, left the radio on. A familiar voice drifted from the speaker. Ongoing investigation into Senator Hargrove's death has uncovered extensive records implicating multiple defense contractors. Federal authorities have yet to comment on the source of the leaks. Claire froze. The leaks. She hadn't sent anything. Slowly, she reached into her jacket pocket. The flash drive was gone. She drove until dawn, panic burning like fever. At a rest stop outside Cannon Beach, she tore through her car, searching every corner. Nothing. Her hands shook. Someone had taken it. Someone had finished what she started. She leaned against the steering wheel, breath hitching. Evan! The word came out as a prayer. Outside, gulls screamed above the cliffs. The sea stretched gray and endless, swallowing the horizon. She got out, walked toward the edge of the overlook, the wind cold and sharp against her face. Below, waves crashed against black rock, spraying mist that tasted like salt and ghosts. Then, from the corner of her eye, movement. A man stood near the edge of the parking lot, wearing a dark hooded jacket. His back was turned, but the way he stood, steady, quiet, unafraid, made her heart stop. "Evan," she whispered. He turned. For a moment time folded. His face was thinner, bruised, but alive. His eyes, those gray, endless eyes, met hers across the wind. She didn't run. She couldn't. He walked toward her slowly, each step real, solid, until he was close enough that she could see the small scar at his jaw, the faint tremor in his hand. "You're dead," she breathed. "Not yet." His voice was rough, gentler than she remembered. "You burned with the cabin. I set the fire. Took Hargrove's body for mine. It was the only way out." Claire's knees almost gave out. "The flash drive, you took it." He nodded. "I leaked what mattered. Enough to expose them. The rest stays buried." Her eyes filled. "You could have told me. I thought." "I know," he said, stepping closer. "I needed you to believe I was gone. If they thought you had the files, they'd stop looking for me." She stared at him, torn between fury and relief. You used me. I saved you. His voice broke a little. If I'd told you, they'd have killed you too. She shook her head. You don't get to decide that. Rain fell harder, slicing between them like a wall. He looked down, rain running off his lashes. You're right. You didn't deserve any of this. For a long moment they stood there, two ghosts on the edge of the world, the storm whispering everything they couldn't say. Finally she spoke. So what now? You vanish again. Evan looked out at the sea. There's a boat leaving from Warrenton tonight. South, then further. I don't exist here anymore, Claire. But the story does. That's enough. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. I don't care about the story. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time since that night in the rain, his defenses fell. You should. The wind carried his words away, but she caught the ache beneath them. Come with me, he said softly. You could disappear too. New names, new lives. Start over. Claire's heart twisted. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But she saw the exhaustion in his face, the weight he'd carry forever. And she knew some storms weren't meant to be escaped, only faced. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his cheek. His eyes closed under her palm. I can't, she whispered. Someone has to stay and tell the truth. He nodded, swallowing hard. Then you be the light, and I'll be the shadow. The rain softened to mist. The sky cracked open with faint sunlight, golden through the clouds. She smiled through tears. You once said the rain was cleansing us. Maybe you were right. He smiled faintly. Maybe it was trying. Their lips met once more. Gentle, final, the kind of kiss that feels like goodbye and forgiveness all at once. When she opened her eyes, he was already walking toward the cliffs. The fog swallowed him, and then he was gone. Weeks later, the Oregonian published the full story. The Cashin scandal. How a dead senator's project brought down an empire. Claire Weston's name was nowhere in the article, but her words filled it. She'd handed over everything Evan had given her. The fragments, the truth. She watched from afar as the world called him a hero and a criminal in the same breath. Every time it rained, she looked out the window, waiting. Sometimes, when the light hit the water just right, she could almost see him there, standing beneath the storm, eyes gray as the river, smiling that quiet, tired smile. And she'd whisper to the glass, "We survived." Because somewhere under another sky, Evan Grant was still out there. And the rain still remembered them both.